class is being recorded for the purpose of those who are not able to attend during the live session. And I will upload this link onto your Teams, as well as the YouTube link will be provided to you so that you can review the lecture, recorded lecture over there as well. Okay, so the most important task that you need to do for week 4 is to make sure that you're working on your assignment, and for that you have to ensure that your dataset link is provided to the instructor. Okay, so that's something you have to do as a first part during the tutorial. So 4 o'clock we will start with the with your dataset links. I can see most of you have got your Kaggle accounts created, and you were browsing through and trying to filter out the data sets. Try to find out something different than what others already have. You can select the data set from health sector, from education, or from any of the consumer preference behaviors, where you can analyze consumer behavior. Or in terms of education, you can look at the student awareness or student involvement into the study. So there are lots of data sets that are available in Kaggle. So you can have a look at that. Okay, so
I need to make Kaggle first and then select my data set. So when I go to
that's correct.
Kaggle, it says register with Google or register with email. So which one should I select?
Yeah, so you can use your KOI Google account. Okay, you can use and it's not like you can use your personal email as well. There's no um, like restriction, but ideally we recommend the students to go for KOI email, so that if you have any questions, you can ask later on as well. Okay, let's continue with your. I will have to share this screen. In that case, let me fix this one. Any other questions from previous lecture?
Ma'am, can you just tell me the criteria of the data set again? I have some confusion so that I can select my one by today. So
Okay, so for data set, make sure I'll put it in the notepad as well. Um, Ideally, we should have, as I said, data set can be from health sector, from education, um, or uh, passenger travel, passenger data from transport, okay, or consumer behavior. Since you're all MBA students, so we expect that you are looking at consumer behavior primarily. And in terms of data set, number of records that you should have, so records should be greater than 1,000, at least 1,000. So even if it is 20,000, 15,000, that's fine. So any number greater than 1,000 is okay. But 850 or 900 something, anything less than 1,000 will not be acceptable. Okay, so you have to make sure that you are following this one. Record count. Records count is greater than 1,000. And how many attributes, or how many different variables? So number of variables. So that would be the column count. Okay, so records is basically rows count, number of rows. And number of variables or number of columns would be it has to be greater than 15. Okay. So at least 15 attributes, variables or attributes needs to be 15. Greater than 15 because I would expect that you are comparing or you are better able to analyze um, descriptive analytics as well as later on predictive analytics. That would be easier for you to complete. Okay. And so once your data set fulfills like one of these categories, it falls under one of these categories, and it has number of records greater than 1000, number of variables or the column count greater than 15. And even in this 15, make sure that they are you have to think, you have to check, if you can create research questions out of that from this data set. Okay, so imagine or think what would be your questions, research questions from this data set. Okay.
Now, what were the preferences which you were describing in the last class, that which kind of data we should select? You are approving which we can't carry for the whole session. You are saying that like
Yeah,
this.
because you have to use the same data set. Once you provide the data set link, you will be using the same data set for assignment 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, I'm
and the
asking which kind
presentation.
of preferences we should prefer from the data.
References in terms of it depends what kind of research questions you can ask. For example, you if it is consumer behavior,
No,
you
no,
will look at how many people are satisfied.
you
Yeah.
was recommending to some students that this kind of data you can't carry for the whole session. It will not be easier for you.
Mm-hmm.
You all.
There were few cases where the data was too much numeric. For example, in terms of health data set, one of the data set had lots of numbers in it. So I could not understand what kind of research questions would you ask. Okay. So if you can relate and if you can ask question, for example, if data set is about BMI levels, people involvement in the active health lifestyle versus their age, their gender, then you can predict whether they will get the cardiovascular diseases or not. So if there is some kind of relationship between those variables, then that means that you can ask those research questions from the data set. But if there is no such relationship and your data set turns out to be something that's collection of just numbers, then you cannot technically ask any questions from the data set itself. Okay, so while looking at the data set, imagine that you have to ask this data set later on set of questions within these sectors. Okay, so either it is health, education, consumer behavior in terms of passengers who are traveling, or a product, using particular product or products. So you have to think, what would I ask this data set? Okay,
Yeah.
so that would be the key part. Yeah.
Think you're
And yeah, any other questions?
nothing, ma'am.
Yeah, it's very important that you finalize your data set by the end of the session today. So we will dedicate your tutorial time particularly for this discussion so that you can get and you have to get the approval before you start working on assignments. If you are working without approval, make sure you get it approved by your instructor. Otherwise, it might be a complete waste of time. And yeah, so you have to prepare your data dictionary. There are a set of elements that we need to cover. So we'll talk about the marking rubrics again today during the tutorial time. Okay, let's continue with the
The
topic. What?
the w-
Yeah,
the website is kaggle.com, right?
that's correct. Kaggle.com. Yeah,
Ma'am, and the number of words count should be 1500. You was it was remain
so
undecided in the.
record count, number of rows is greater than 1000. Okay,
Yeah.
so if it is greater than 1000, you're okay. But number of columns would be 15 plus.
I think in the last class this thing was remain undecided, that number of maybe number of words should be 1500 or 500 like this.
The word count. Yes, I
Yeah.
discussed that with your coordinator as well. Yeah, so we'll stick to the requirement that is there in the assignment page, in the assignment itself, in the course outline. So we'll stick to that one. Okay.
I'm sorry, ma'am. These are 1500.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sorry,
I have a question.
Yeah, 1000 to 1500 is okay. Yeah.
it's okay.
Yes,
Excuse me,
Nahi.
ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, if I choose 10 out of 15 columns, is it okay for me?
What do you mean 10 out of
I mean
15?
the data set number, column number is 10 out of 15. Or
So
is
your
it
data
okay,
set
or it
has
should be
10
16?
columns.
Right.
So your data set has 10 columns or your data set has 15 columns?
I mean, the data set, it's showing that it is the column number is 10 out of 22 or sometimes in 15 because I'm looking for it. And whenever I'm
Yes.
looking for it, I'm getting this sort of data sets.
So in Kaggle, it displays only 10 columns at one time. So you can select all columns. So there's an option to select all and then download.
Okay.
So basically your data set will have 25 columns and you will have to download everything.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so when it says 10 out of 25, it means in Kaggle, there are 25 columns in total. And then you need to select all of them and double check whether you require them or not. Yeah, we will continue this discussion during the tutorial time. So yeah, let's look at the lecture for today. So it is about data warehousing. Uh, Data warehouse is one of the key repository where data is kept. Are you connected through the live session? Yeah, you need to connect through because this screen is not working and I've shared the slides over there as well. Yeah, so that would make your life easier because I'm whatever I'm sharing with students, it's on the screen. Yeah, once you connect through, you'll be good. Okay, so data warehouse, it represents one of the repository where all of the uh, data that's not kind of operational, but we are just getting the data and we have processed. So we are done with all the processing. Remember, we discussed that once you purchase any product, you get time span within which you can get it exchanged or refunded. So if you take the product back to the point of sale terminal, they will not be able to issue you a reimburse or an exchange because they don't have data over there at point of sale. So after 2 weeks or after 4 weeks or after that duration of the exchange policy, basically they are uploading all of that data set, they are collecting it up and putting it onto their uh, changing it in the there's some change in the data format. They convert it into a format that it becomes easier to process for the purpose of questions that they may ask or the queries, those ad hoc queries or decision making processes. It will be useful in those decision making processes. For example, we might be interested like how many let's say the number of chairs here. So how many chairs were sold in the year 2026? So you can easily go back and determine, but you don't have to find out who was the consumer or what was the name of the person who came to place the order. So we don't have to, or who placed it online, maybe via email. So we are not interested in the details, but we need to know that how many products were sold in that particular time duration, or how many times how many cases of COVID, for example, they were identified in a particular region. Okay, so you keep storing that information, but if it is operational, we need to know how many products are being sold recently and who is the consumer, who is the buyer. We need to know all of those details. So once those details become unnecessary over a period of time, we just keep that data because data is being generated anyways. So we can't throw it into the bin. So we convert into a format and then we place it into our decision support systems or DSS in the form of data cubes. That's called that repository is called the data warehouse. Now, why are we doing this? It will help us to make certain strategic decisions. Remember, strategic decisions are the decisions that are going to impact our future plan, or our plan over a couple of months or over a couple of years, maybe, or current year. But it's not going to impact the operational tasks. The things, for example, MBA 909 is being offered in this semester too. This is an operational task, so we cannot change that to happen. But yes, later on in our MBA program, are we having more data analysis courses? How can we, are we changing any tools that are being used for data analysis? So that would be a strategic decision that can be implemented over a period of time, but not immediately. Okay, so those decisions that are going to affect the long term, or at least not operational decisions, then they are called the strategic decisions. Complex data analysis and BI, obviously they are business intelligence activities. They help in identifying the trends, patterns, and relationships in the data set. Okay, so you try to determine that how many, what is the count of the product that is sold over a period of time, and what can be done to improve your future business. Okay, so, or in future, what could be done better to identify or diagnose a particular disease, for example, in health sector. Okay, so we need to know that uh, the dependent independent variables, or the relationship between those variables, that one variable is defining another one. For example, in order to reduce the, let's have a look. Yeah, so they are subject oriented, they are integrated, time variant, time series, non-volatile. One of the example in case of the health sector would be number of people who are having cardiovascular diseases. Um, what is their age group? Okay, so every time a heart attack case comes in, all of the patient details, they are stored in the system. Doctor is fully informed about the patient history, and then they are able to perform their procedures. And while they are performing their procedures, obviously they require that data set to be actively available within the system, right? And then once that patient has been discharged and everything is all is sorted, they might be coming up for a visit after a week for general observation. Okay, so their data will be moved onto from one inpatient details, they will be transferred onto one of the patient descriptions. So their history will remain existing. It will continue to exist. So over period of time, it will continue to exist, and it will be integrated in that. Okay, this patient came in an emergency with complaint for pain in left shoulder, or they were not conscious or something like that, and it is subject oriented. Obviously it is for a particular classification or particular situation. Then it will be summarized with the historic details, and it's not normalized. Like some of the details might be missing, that we don't know the full name of the patient because the patient was not accompanied by anyone, or we don't know their emergency contact details because patient is coming in for the very first time in the hospital. So we are still taking the rest of the details and we are processing the case. Client server real time, so how that data is being stored within the hospital. So whether it is stored on a central location, if it is a really small hospital, or if it is a chain of hospitals or a government hospital, obviously they will keep storing a safe copy onto the central server. So client server database operations might come along. Okay, so this is how the time varying data, the number of patients who are coming for those heart attack cases, they are being processed, or even for any other emergency. So all of the emergency cases, they are being processed and stored. And then there is a task that's called extraction. So extract, transform, and load. This process will happen. It's the extract process will extract all of the patients who came up with a complaint within their cardiovascular system. So maybe they came up with another complaint, but were treated for the cardiovascular diseases, and were diagnosed for cardiovascular diseases. So we have to extract data for all of those male, female, or any age groups or variable gender, variable age groups, variable locations that those people are coming all across, let's say NSW, in different hospital locations. So we have to extract that what has happened, all of the cardiovascular complaints people, and then you don't need their patient full name, their addresses, their except their location, because we are interested in certain locations. We need to figure out um, how is the distribution of those diseases across different regions. So we have location variable, we have age, gender, and a brief information about whether they were active in their lifestyle or not, what were their sugar levels, what was their previous any of the other disease that could have potentially caused the cardiovascular thing to fail out. So we retrieve the data from that data source where we have got all of the emergency cases. They might be people who are having any accidental situation, or maybe having pre-existing medical situations other than, it could be mental health, it could be physical health, it could be anything else other than the cardiovascular. So all of the cardiovascular cases you're going to extract from those data sets, and then you have to create that file. So that's what the extract process is already done for you from Kaggle. Okay, so they are extracting the data set for you, and then you have to cleanse, validate, and aggregate and format the data for consistency, that yes, we are looking at people about their heart issues, and we are trying to investigate since we are concerned about what are the factors that are causing that heart disease. So we are not concerned about their name, about their particular address details, or their any other personal details, except if they had any history of any other diseases or not. Okay, so any unnecessary variables that you do not require, you can simply get rid of them again, and then you can load and populate the data into the data warehouse or data mart structure. So this is what ETL is already done for you by Kaggle. So they have extracted, they have transformed, they have loaded data sets for a particular problem domain. You just need to figure out which particular area you're going to work at. Okay, but if you are trying to do that for, as I explained the example of the cardiovascular cases in all across hospital in NSW. So you have to look at the NSW government data from the coming in from the health department, and then you need to extract the patient details, and you have to specify which particular attributes you are interested in, obviously for the purpose of privacy, because hospitals, they keep patient information highly secure. They are supposed to keep that information. It's not supposed to be available to everyone or for anyone, except for the purpose of research and medical sciences, for the doctors to study the case histories. But again, certain dimensions like their names, their PII, or the personally identifiable informations, they are completely discarded away from the data set, just to let them understand what are different cases and what are different situations through which they might have to go through. So this applies not only to health sector, it applies to all of the domains where we are getting the data processing done. Okay, so ETL is required to acquire those large data set and to create those data warehouses. So within those data warehouses, you require data sources where data is being collected. For example, for the NSW health thing, think about those hospital locations where cases are coming in emergency, or GP where patients are coming up with complaints. Then you have the ETL processes, because you're storing that sources of the information, you are converting them for certain processing. If it is for the purpose of operational tasks, then it will be processed in a different way. But for the purpose of your data warehouse, you have to do the ETL processes where you discard certain unnecessary information. It is cleansed out, and if some of the missing information is there, that will be removed as well. And then we have data storage, how that centralized data warehouse is going to process that information. Then metadata is data about data. That's exactly what you have to prepare. You have to prepare the metadata in your assignment number 1, where you have to explain those attributes or the columns, that how do you access, or why are you trying to look at that data set? What is the purpose of each attribute? What does it tell you? And then how do you incorporate that later on? So data dictionary, for example, is a very good example of metadata. So you might have to do those data definitions in the form of data dictionary, where you explain each attribute, each column in detail. And you can see in some of the Kaggle records, data dictionary is already provided within Kaggle. So if you are taking it from there, make sure you add only the components that you understand, the columns that you are keeping within your analysis, and don't forget to add the reference, because otherwise it will be flagged as one of the plagiarism thing within your assignment. Okay, now coming back to your warehouse concept. So you can see the data sources, the enterprise resource planning, legacy, point of sale, other online transaction processing or web, external data. Those data are being generated for the purpose of operational tasks that are being carried out. Okay, so routine data tasks, routine business reporting that is being done, and it is being stored inside the data sources. Then ETL, extract, transform, and load, has to select, extract, convert, and combine, and then load it in the form of enterprise data warehouse and metadata. Metadata will describe. So, for example, if you go to Kaggle, they will provide you with description of all the columns, that what is the purpose of these columns, and they also provide brief descriptions about what is this data all about. Okay, so metadata is nothing but just data about data. Okay, so it explains what is the purpose of this data that you are looking at. Okay, and then we can have replication. Why do we create replicas? Why do we create copies of the data? Why do you think the copies of data are created?
For the safety purpose, if some file lost by
Yeah,
chance
yeah. So
from,
for the purpose of, yeah, backup kind of thing, that if
yeah,
one point fails in terms of loading the data, or there is a catastrophic situation, then we do have a safe copy where we can refer to for the purpose of transactions. Okay. So from those enterprise data marts or data cubes, they are created based on either we are looking at marketing purpose, operations purpose, finance purpose. So which particular direction are we looking at? And then your routine business reporting, text mining, online analytical, OLAP is online analytical processing for the dashboard or web. For example, doctors might be able to look at how many COVID cases were reported last night. People came with symptoms like flu or throat ache or high fever. So they can do that analysis by looking at number of patients that came in last night or in within last week. Okay, so they will be able to analyze that count of the records. Custom bill applications, obviously, you have to generate the bills for certain products or things. So while you are generating that, you are also getting the data that you can use later on for the purpose of analysis. It's a three-tier architecture: data acquisition, where data is being collected at the back end, and then data warehouse that contains the data and the software. So it has got the data as well as the software that is extracting, transforming, and converting it in a format that it can be reused later on for the purpose of analysis. Client is the front-end software that allows users to access and analyze data from the warehouse. So at any time, the manager should be able to see how many products are being sold for a particular, let's say, for example, for car showroom. They will keep an update on their mobile phones. The managers should be able to see how many vehicles are coming into the showroom and how many are being sold so that they can look at their operational tasks, how they are being done. And then later on, you will have even a detailed analysis view, descriptive view can be presented in their application in their applications so that they are able to figure out how many transactions were done within last month, within last 6 months, within last year. So depending on their query, the warehouse should be able to respond accordingly. So if it is two-tier, we are just relying on data acquisition and creating those data warehouse. So we are not concerned about the client view, providing them a brief view of how the data is being collected. So web-based data warehousing can be done where clients might be interested that, yes, we have to see how the transactions are being processed over a period of time, and we require immediate responses in this matter. So that can be done by web-based data warehousing. So you can see there is a three-tier architecture where client workstation is there, application server is working at the back end, and then there is a database server. Two-tier would be where client workstation will directly interact with the application and database server. So the amount of data, the quantity of data will decide whether we require a separate database server or not, plus the resources by organization. So they are going to help. How many data servers do you require? Then we have enterprise data warehouses where the centralized repository is kept for all data. It will allow or it will better enable the organization to do their data analysis and reporting in an efficient way. And it will give a full comprehensive view of the business data that is being processed. For data marts, you have to extract and you have to create those small cubes and you can put that. But their key idea is that you keep those business units separate. They are not to minimize any of the obviously the spaghetti view is not acceptable, so you try to segregate them and create a more agile more agile view for the system for any of the particular analytical tools. Now for data warehouse development, we can follow either top-down approach or a bottom-up. Top-down means that you think about the strategic view first, and then you dig down deep onto the operational task. For example, strategically, you need to analyze what is the population for NSW, what are different age groups that are living here. So how many doctors do we require? How many GPs do we require? How many hospitals do we require? And then we have to think about, okay, we require how many emergency cases need to be held, for example. So you are doing some strategic planning, looking at some previous data or looking at the requirements that you have within the system. And then you are building up that organization and you are assigning resources onto those different locations, right? Similarly, if you are thinking about the top-down approach for airlines management, for example, so you need to think of how many passengers are traveling. So what would be our requirement for number of flights, roughly the number of domestic flights from Sydney to Melbourne or Sydney to Adelaide? Would there be a high frequency over the weekend or weekdays? Would it impact the number of passengers who are moving across? And do we really need a separate airline for this particular traveling, for example, Sydney to Melbourne is really busy. So we may plan for another separate dedicated airline who will have the flight count might change, but we do require a couple of flights over the weekends and few during the weekdays. So that's kind of a strategic planning, that you are not digging down into how many passengers will actually be traveling or how many tried to book but they could not book. So we do have few passengers that are still not able to. So that data is already there. You are having some feedback, and based on that, you are strategically planning for the upcoming time period. Obviously, there are advantages and disadvantages for this approach. You get a cohesive integrated data warehouse solution. Long-term business strategy and goals, they are well addressed, but we still don't know. It can be time consuming if you're not planning it correctly. So it all depends on the strategic decisions. If you're not making right decisions, it's going to impact over a period of time, and those impact would be really high. You cannot perceive that as initial failure results. For bottom up approach, it's more of a tactical approach. You look at how things are being done. For example, MBA909, we have got lots of numbers of students coming along. Let's open up another class and let's allow students to enroll for another day, because we have got student count exceeded. So let's add another section. So that would be a kind of looking at the operational tasks. You're going to take immediate steps to resolve those or to plan for the overall organization growth as such. Okay, so you're not relying on strategic planning here. Rather, um, you have got quite tangible and fast results that are coming along from your operational tasks, and you are going to review that. Now, here the risk of data silos and the lack of integration, because you are not um, relying on the strategic decision makers. Rather, you are focusing on how the operations are being done and immediately working around that. So it might require lots of rework to integrate disparate data marts and separate data marts. If you merge them up, that would be a lot of challenge as well. So for data warehouse development, usually the top down is considered, but we cannot say that one of them is better over the other. So each one has got their own benefits and disadvantages. So within a data warehouse, we have got certain facts. Facts are quantitative data for analysis, often transactional, like sales amounts or order quantities. So you get some certain facts within your data file, and then there are dimensions that describe the data, providing the context facts like time, geography, product details. So those are all dimensions. Dimensions would be your kind of attributes that are explaining those facts. Okay. So if you look at the dimensional modeling of your data warehouse, it can be either a star schema or a snowflake schema. Star means that there is some central point of connect and everything is connected onto that center. Suitable for straightforward reporting in BI application. It has a central fact table, and dimensions, they continue to be part of one way or the other. They are connected through the fact table. For Snowflake, we have got a very segregated or separate objects that can be just like you can crack a snowflake. So on the same lines, this snowflake schema is having more of a normalized dimension table. There is reduced redundancy or reduced repetition in case of Snowflake, but efficient use of storage might be accomplished. Uh, Architecture, you can see star schema, we have got central fact table, while Snowflake, each dimension is having its own full-fledged entity. So you can simply move around to create those snowflakes. Now, this is the online analytical processing, the OLAP. For three-dimensional, for example, we can combine product, their geography, and their time. Okay, so which product is being sold when and at what particular location. Okay, so all of those three dimensions, they are coming along within that data cube. Okay, So you can either dig down all of the product details, you can dig down the time of the day at at which the transactions are done, or the location or particular location where all of those transactions are completed. Future of data warehouse, obviously web, social media. You can imagine, you can well imagine how data is being generated continuously. So you are getting lots of data. You need to develop those skills to analyze data sets so that you can make your business efficient or allow the better strategic decision making possible. Yes, any questions? So we did a quick review of data warehousing, okay, and what are the components. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, I can see some of you are sending in. Oh, that's good. Most of you are sending in your data sets. So yeah, so I think we'll start with your tutorial work now with a quick break for 10 minutes, and then we will continue with your tutorial task. But as I said, for your assignment, while you are selecting the data sets, it can be from health, education, or any of the consumer behavior, maybe passengers, or a particular product adoption, whether product is being accepted or not, or what are the sales for certain um, what are the sale trends at different locations maybe. So you can select data set from any of these domains. Your requirement would be the number of rows, it should exceed 1000, it has to be greater than 1000, and number of variables or attributes has to be greater than 15. Okay, and then having 15 columns does not finalize that yes, the data set is acceptable. You still need to look at whether you can ask certain research questions from this data set or not. In terms of assignment submission, you have to provide, let's go to your course outline here.
Ma'am, I have already selected my dataset. Can I share it to the chat box?
Yeah, I'll take a look during the tutorial
Ma'am,
time.
Okay.
this is Azim Hassan. I actually last class I actually created my Kaggle account, but here I can't like you select. You didn't write my name as I open my account and actually share my topic as well. If you can see in that message.
Yeah, I'll go case by case for all of you. I'll start at 4
Thank you, ma'am.
o'clock. Okay. So you have cover page, industry, background. So if you are, for example, selecting from health, from education, from any of the domain, you need to provide that short background. What are the challenges related to your data set? So you have to keep that data set discussion in. Business requirements or business questions. So what are you going to ask? What are your questions? So there should be 3 to 5 research questions that you're going to ask from this data set. And then data description is describing what are those elements, and data dictionary is defining each variable in detail in the form of a tabular structure. We will take a look at those data sets that students are already selecting, for example, and then from there you can easily understand the data dictionary for some of the Kaggle data sets. It's already provided over there. But as I said, do not take it as is. Just write down the variable name um, and as it appears in the data set, plus what is the description that you think that it is going to explain. Okay, so you can use your own words to define each variable. Okay, and at last you have to provide justification of chosen set while you are writing your business questions and you are justifying why. Don't forget to add the references from the literature. Okay, so you get support from if you are doing your, if you have a data set, for example, some of you have got mental health in the tech survey, or mental health issues. So have a look at other researchers who are already exploring mental health issues, and don't forget to add their references in. Similarly, for student academic performance data set, look at how other researchers, they are looking at student academic performance, and then try to relate, try to provide an evidence that yes, since other people are also, this researcher XYZ is also doing, and they had these kind of findings, we are going to look at, or I'm going to, this report will look at, try to avoid using I or we. So this report would look at the student academic performance data set, for example. So yeah, and this is the marking rubric. Okay, so I always go through this one. So for your assessment number 2, you will be using, once you submit assessment 1, when is it due? The week, Sunday of week 4, right? So by next class, technically, or Tuesday of the next week, you will start getting the feedback for assessment 1. Okay, so don't forget to go through that feedback within Moodle, because that will help you to do your assignment 2 as well. So if you are doing any mistake in assessment 1, do not continue to repeat in assessment 2. Okay, so I try to provide the feedback immediately. That will help you to work around your assignment 2 efficiently. Now, in assessment 2, the reason why I'm referring here to assessment 2 is there is a software or tool that you're going to use for the purpose of analysis. Okay, although it's too early to talk about that, but you have to use a tool that's called Tableau. Okay, um, and your tutorial questions, if you look at week 4 tutorial, there is Tableau for students and Tableau desktop. You will start downloading that by today during the tutorial time. So those who have already selected the data set have started assignment. So once you are done with your data set selection, tutorial time, make sure you get through the Tableau installation. If you cannot, that's okay. Week 4 and 5, we dedicate for Tableau installation and making sure that you are all set for your assessment number 2. Okay, because in assessment 2, you will be using Tableau, and you will be loading your data set that you got from Kaggle in Tableau. Okay, so if any of the student is using any other tool, there will be lots of deduction of score. So they cannot technically pass the course. So this is why I'm discussing this during the recorded part, so that those who are missing the class, if they review the class, they should be well informed that for the purpose of week 4 tutorial and week 5, you need to cover how to get Tableau working and how to get that thing usable for assignment number 2. For assessment 1, I will go through with each one of you. For those who did not select the data set yet,
Hi,
don't
ma'am.
worry, we will be doing that now. Okay. So I will go for, I'll stop recording here, and then we'll go one after the other.
I've been trying to look for data set, but it's difficult for me.